Hello there, I'm Fernanda Paiva, Hitchhiking Stars, bringing you some ideas, some insights to make the most of the lunations, of the new moons and full moons. So let's take a closer look at the coming full moon in Aries. So we have a full moon in Aries happening on the 17th of October. So the 17th of October, and that's an intense one. I have to say that is a very intense full moon, and it can be bringing and releasing a lot of energy. Now we know the full moons have a connection to a culmination of some sort, and a sense of clarity can come with full moons as well, because it's very open in the air, right up in the sky, very visible, and symbolically that does reflect something very visible in our lives as well, in our, depending where you place that full moon. Obviously you need to think about your natal chart. Where is 24 degrees Aries, etc., and really place the whole complex of this full moon there to have a better idea personally of what that could mean for you. But in general, I can say that this full moon is definitely going to be shaking some structures and really bringing some impactful revelations, information. Something really big could be coming up to the surface with the energy of this full moon. As usual, what I like to say is to find creative channels for the intensity. So the more intense an astrological transit is, the more we need to channel that energy responsibly. Like, take responsibility for this energy, knowing that this energy is going to come our way, is how we can make certain decisions that will allow us to work with the energies in the best way possible. So if you're more body driven, do some breath work or some dancing or something that is safe, because we're talking about a full moon Aries, so perhaps not the best time to do some radical sports or anything that would put you at risk, but dancing and doing something physical can be really helpful, or sitting with that intensity if you're able to, if you can. If you're more nature driven, spending time in nature. If you are more meditation or a meditative person, then sitting with those intense emotions and really using to get these revelations. So all of that to say, yes, this is going to be a very intense one. Let's get into the details of it now. And why do I think that this is going to be an intense full moon in Aries? So first, let's have a look at the Sabian symbol, right? As usual, Sabian symbol for 24 degrees Aries is a double promise, reveals its inner and outer meanings. So a double promise reveals its inner and outer meanings. That's an interesting one. That's a bit of a thought-provoking one, because it's talking about duality here. It's talking about things aren't really what they seem. And this could go both ways. It could be something that you're expecting to be wonderful, and it turns out actually there are like small prints in there that you haven't really paid attention to. Or something that you took for granted and you didn't think was going to be great, but actually is really amazing. It has a dimension that you definitely haven't noticed. So that's something that I feel this Sabian symbol is telling us about this particular degree. But for me, one of the keywords in this Sabian symbol is reveals. Because as I was saying to you before, the powerful configuration of this full moon seems to be extra revealing, extra intense, extra transformative, extra triggering as well in this way. So stress on the word reveals, because there is something that could be revealed during this full moon that's going to be big in some way. That's going to be big, that's going to be fiery, that's going to be irritating potentially. You know, a lot of anger could come up as well during this full moon, because it's a full moon Aries, because Mars is involved in the configuration as well. So that's a kind of a double whammy here of an Aries Mars flavor. And Mars inflames. Mars incites arguments and separation. And it doesn't have to be in a negative way only. You know, separation is a very important dimension of individuation. We can't become our own individuals if you don't have the courage, another Mars word, if we don't have the courage to separate, to go our way, to do our thing, right? To walk our own path and not really care what other people are saying or thinking of us. So there's something about Mars energy that's going to be very under the spotlight here with this full moon. And any wounds that we might have around Mars and Aries. So do we tend to be more of a people pleaser type of person? Do we tend to be more agreeable and sacrifice our own needs, our own wants for other people, for what they're going to think about us, etc.? Do we find difficult to set boundaries, to say no, to show the limit to others? How is that? Because depending on our personal relationship to all of those principles, this full moon is going to come up in different ways, right? But there is an intensity there. And so first, one of the double whammies here of Mars and Aries is that we have a mutual reception between Mars and the moon during this full moon. And obviously is, you know, a mutual reception is when one planet is in a sign of the other, and they work like a little pair. They're like buddies. They understand each other and they work together somehow. So Mars is in Cancer, which is ruled by the moon, and the moon is in Aries, which is ruled by Mars. So they're on each other's sign, and they're working together behind the scenes in this full moon. So we might feel more impulsive, more impatient. All of the, you know, Aries kind of flavor profile and themes might be very strong during this full moon. And the full moon will be conjoined Chiron as well. So there are a few aspects that we have that the full moon will be making that does reveal a sense of an uncomfortable truth that might be revealed. Something that we didn't expect, or something that requires action, or, you know, it will be something about that Aries dimension of life. And so, first aspect, the moon is conjoined Chiron. So there could be revelations related to wounds, to a sense of awkwardness, to all the things that we don't feel were so good about Aries. We don't express that energy so well. And for some of us, it might be an underdeveloped feeling or sense or connection to Aries. And for others, it might be an overactive Aries principle. We say no too much. We separate too much. We argue too much, right? We're too inflammable somehow. So remember, this is Libra season. The sun is in Libra. We just came out of a new moon in Libra. So there is a search for balance still. So what is the balance? Where is that sweet spot in Libra for us personally, for each one of us? How can we balance more Aries in our lives? How can we balance more Aries, anger, Mars, assertion? So those questions are going to be there. And because the full moon is conjoined Chiron, there can be amazing, powerful healing But there's no healing without getting in touch with suffering and discomfort. We can't heal without feeling the discomfort. It's very challenging. I can't imagine a situation where healing is just a complete, pleasant and wonderful experience. I think we need to be aware of the hurt. We need to feel the pain to even know that we need some sort of healing, right? So that full moon conjoined Chiron can bring great healing, but can also do that by showing us where the pain is, where the hurt is. So again, going into this full moon with awareness, with self-compassion, with patience, as much patience as we can, and with tools to channel these energy creatively. Journaling, dancing, breath work, therapies, walking in nature, whatever it is that is nourishing for you is a wonderful thing to do around this full moon. Now, the other aspects are involved in a grand cross, basically. This full moon is part of a grand cross. We've got the sun and the moon in opposition, which is always the case when we have a full moon. So the sun in Libra, the moon in Aries, conjoined Chiron, showing us where the pain is and the wound and the potential for healing. They're both in square to Mars in Cancer. So Mars in square to this full moon is inflammable, is that double whammy of Aries and Mars and the moon in mutual reception, dealing with anger, irritation, fever. And the other end, or the other square that the sun and the moon is making, or will be making, is a square to Pluto. So we have Mars-Pluto opposition, a wide opposition. Mars will perfect that opposition later on, but it's already within orb. And so they're applying to a square and an opposition to Pluto. Now, we're not talking about anger and irritation anymore. We're talking about rage. We're talking about things that have been buried really, really deeply. And so we have an opportunity to get in touch with those feelings and reclaim our power. That's a big one with Pluto and Mars. Reclaim our power, reclaim our ability to separate, to say no, to set boundaries, to be a warrior, to play the role that's uniquely ours in the world. We have to have a healthy relationship with these principles. Interestingly as well, Venus is at 29 degrees Scorpio at the time of this full moon. So Venus, which rules that sun in Libra, one end of the full moon here. So Venus is at 29 Scorpio, which is in a perfect sextile to Pluto. So they're forming a very exact sextile, telling me, yes, upgrade your values here, or use your values as the base on every conflict or anything that might come your way, as your values are going to be the guidance here as well. What you truly, truly value, take that very seriously. Be very, very aligned with it. So Venus is in a perfect sextile to Pluto, is in a trine to Neptune, and an opposition to Uranus as well. So there's some big changes in relation to values that are going to be, one of the chords and the flavors, energetically speaking, of this full moon. And then, interestingly, that Venus will move on to Sagittarius in the same day of the full moon, a little later. So Venus will enter Sagittarius. So it will go from Mars ruled to Jupiter ruled. And it will focus more on growth, expansion. But we're still on the realm of Scorpio during that full moon. So healing, going deeper, dealing with the challenging subjects, like Pluto, Mars, and Chiron. So that's it. I hope that this can be helpful for you to navigate this very, very intense full moon, and that you can make the most of this energy and transform and empower yourself and heal some of these old wounds. So I'm wishing you all a wonderful full moon, and I'll be speaking soon. Bye bye.